I'm going to be reading you guys a portion of a short story. This is for me to test out my new setup for one. Welcome, thank you so much. And as well for me to test this new mic that I'm using here. I won't be reading the entire story, but I will share a link to the story in the comments below. Something happened in the lab the other night. I'm not certain what, but it was something. I powered up the device, and there the other I. It was a possibility I hadn't considered. By opening a door into a parallel universe, I opened the door to myself in that same universe. Some clarification first. My name is Samuel Worth. I am 34 years old and I'm a physicist that likes doing stupid experiments in my garage. I go by Sam. Her name is Samantha Worth, a 34-year-old physicist that likes to do stupid experiments in her garage. She goes by Sam. Why is it repeating this twice? One different at our conception, or possibly even sooner, we might look too alike to have a wildly different selection of genes from my mother and father. We knew in an instant until the age of 12 we looked identical. I'd been called girlish when I was a child. She was called a tomboy, right up until puberty hit us hard. We shared an awareness of our entire lives up until turning on the device. She reached out a hand and both of us was unsure of what might happen. I reciprocated and our hands touched. At that moment, the machine powered down. My consciousness divided itself between two worlds without severing the connection. The following morning, I had to sit down to pee because it was too confusing to try to do things differently than by the time I had finished breakfast, a cup of coffee, it was becoming easier to manage both of myselves at once. I feel like this is being like a run-on and I'm not like pausing at the commas and the periods. Sorry, I'm gonna try to do that a little bit better. Take a drink of water here. See if that helps. All right. Driving was probably dangerous, so I took public transportation to the university. I didn't have any lectures today, but had to maintain office hours. Dr. Worth, I have a question about the math behind Bell's theorem. I looked up at Caleb. He was a good kid, quiet, reserved, perhaps a little slow in university on a swimming scholarship. Did well in nationals and hoped for a shot at the Olympics. Not the sort you imagine for going a physics degree, but he never stopped trying. His dangness. It says Damnest. I settled into going over the math with Caleb. And when I was interrupted, Dr. Worth, can you help me with this proof? I think I missed something. She looked up at Chloe. She was a bad girl type. At least she tried to act that way. Not the sort you imagine going for a physics degree, unless you got to know her. Under the torn jeans, tattoos, hot pink mohawk, and acidic tongue, had a sharp mind. Or hid, not revealing a sharp mind. I had a moment of panic, realizing I had just spent several uncomfortable seconds in a sort of fung. I don't know how to pronounce that word. Sorry, I said. It's been a strange day. For some reason that is still unclear to us. Me, she, I, and I changed places. I came up with a new approach to explain the difficult parts to Caleb to help him grasp it. While I poured over Chloe's proof, finding an arithmetic error in the mist, helping her rework it from the point forward. I finished the day with a fresh pot of coffee in the garage, trying to restart the device by working from opposite ends. I was able to troubleshoot in half the time it would have taken otherwise. The fact of the matter was, there was nothing wrong with the device. It just refused to start. Power levels in and out, and I pressed strain on the circuit, all pointed to it still running, but nothing. Even after unplugging the power supply, the device still showed current flowing through the circuits consistent with being powered on. The pot of coffee long since been empty. I prepared for bed. In front of the sink, I looked into the mirror. The same eyes, the same fine lines around them. The same hairline, but in masculine and feminine form, both visible in the mirror. It was strange, and perhaps even more unnerving than the awareness of being two versions in two universes simultaneously. I called the university and had our TAs taking over lectures for the rest of the week. Every waking minute was spent in the garage, trying everything to reset the device, while I finally decided to destroy them. Break them down to unusable debris, never to attempt this experiment again. As the week went on, I felt our link growing weaker. I, and I could still feel sense of one another, but it was through our local consciousness was again taking the forefront. The final memories I had together were on Saturday evening. I was in her dinner. I unusually frequented, while I was in a bar, where I was in a semi-regular. What that just said? I had no clue. Chloe left the booth where her similarly tattooed and pierced friends were laughing boisterously and approached. Dr. Worth? I thought you said chicken and waffles sounded disgusting. It wouldn't be fair to dismiss it without empirical evidence, and off to work called me Samantha or Sam. What's the verdict, Sam? I smiled. It's fantastic, just the way I remember it from another universe. Chloe laughed. You'll have to tell me about that sometime. Nope. How do you... This light above me is making weird sounds. Where was I? Caleb entered the bar and other members of the swim team. Come on, guys, quit trying to hook me up. I just want to have a beer and then go back to the dorms and study. He saw me at the bar and approached. Dr. Worth, I've never seen you here. Hey, Caleb, I'm off to work. Call me Samuel or Sam. So Samantha, Sam, they both begin with Sam, so I guess for short, it would make sense to just say Sam. That makes sense. Well, Doc, Sam, I didn't take you for the wine type. I swirled a glass of red and took another sniff. I remember enjoying this in another universe, I said. Is this as good as this one? It is. Do you think it's actually possible to travel to another universe, he asked. I began explaining to Chloe and Caleb how the universe is well within Schwarzschild radius for the amount of mass present, and how presence a possibility that the universe itself can have an event horizon that we are well inside. It was sometime during the explanation that I no longer felt my other self and suddenly felt very alone. This was a great story. This was clearly just to test my new lighting, my new set, this new mic, as well as for you guys to enjoy a short story. Again, if you didn't fully understand what I just read, just like me, there will be a link to the story down in the comments. It's a really nice short story to read. It's called We/I. And every time I would say she, I, or he, I, or us, we, something like that, it would literally just be HE/I. And you'll see that down in the comments. I can show you right here on my phone as well. There it is. See that? See how it says he, I? So yeah, that's literally what it says, and that's just how I read it. I hope you guys enjoyed that short story. How much are we at? 11 minutes? Let's read one more. There's got to be another good one on here, you know? Okay, this story is called Unseen by Rebecca Jordan. The canister had always been there, rolling around at the bottom of his duffel bag. Whenever he packed, his fingers would graze over smooth, gray top, but he'd never take it out, never look directly at it. Sometimes when he unpacked, the canister would get wound up in a dirty sock or wedged inside of a pocket, and it would come up with a handful of laundry as he went to chuck it into the machine. Whenever this happened, Jake would carefully retrieve the black cylinder and tuck it into the back of the bottom corner of his bag. That's where it belonged. That's where it stayed for years. It had been so long, he no longer remembered what was on the film, what pictures could be frozen on there, a tiny strip of celluloid. Don't know what that is. When Maggie died, Jake was lost. He left his job, gave up their apartment, packed a few things into his duffel bag, and left town. He gave up on himself, letting his hair grow long and his beard grow white. He drove the highways aimlessly, stoic behind the wheel of their beloved '69 Charger. Maggie loved their car more than most things, and having her gone, looking to his right and seeing her seat empty was like a dagger to the side every time he looked. In the late afternoons he could imagine her there, small hand hanging out of the window, fingers surfing on the wind. He could see the golden light of the sunset in her fiery hair, illuminating her pale, beautiful face like an angel. If he wanted it badly enough, Jake could reach across his seat and take her hand, close his fingers around the apparition, feel her close. But when reality returned, it hit hard. His tears never seemed to stop, falling hard like a downpour on the windshield. The back of his hand wasn't as efficient as the wipers to blast the drops of salty pain away, but it was all he had. When it was bad, he pulled over, caution lights blinking on the side of the road until the worst was over. Jake stuck to the smaller towns, enjoying the feel of an old-timey main street. He liked to see the houses built close together, their covered porches, inviting neighbors and strangers alike to sit and talk. He loved the old mom and pop stores, their windows filled with inciting seasonal displays. He took the time by these windows, counting months with glittered paper shamrocks or tiny American flags. Mostly he floated. There was nowhere to be, no destination waiting for him at the end of the road. He slept in his car, stretching his long legs across his back seat and using her old gray hoodie as a pillow. Her smell had long ago faded, but if he tried hard enough, Jake could remember the faint hint of coconut that always seemed to spring from her skin. She liked to tease him, saying that being from Florida meant that everything about her was tropical, even her scent. He didn't care why she smelled like the way she did, what shampoo and lotion combination made her so delicious. What? He just knew that she was. Maggie had been the light in his life, and now he wanted the shadows without her. At night, with passing headlights rolling across the roof, Jake would conjure up a dream of her. It was routine now. He started with her hair, that flaming red mess of curls that tingled between his fingers, catching even when he tried to be smooth with his touches. Her eyes came next. Faded denim. Where was I? Faded denim blue beneath pale lashes that were almost blonde in the sunlight. They were his favorite, clear and true. Filled with nothing but love, they lingered on his face. He fell asleep like that, imagining her features, recreating her in his mind. Some nights she would sneak into his daydreams and he curl on himself, loving the fantasy, or other times there was nothing behind his eyes. No comforting smile, no warm laugh, no touch from her delicate hand. Those nights were cold and sleep was far from his grasp. The worst part was those nights were coming more often than lately. It seemed harder for him to evoke her spirit, to remember the curve of her neck, the pitch of her nose. Maggie was fading away. He worked odd jobs when he felt like it or when his wallet was empty and the gas tank was low. He was strong and tall, and construction work came easy to him. There was no passion in it for him. It was just a day or two out in the sun, tanning his big arms and filling the car back up. A few bosses would ask him to stay, but he never accepted. There were roads left to travel, stars yet to sleep beneath. He made a few friends along the way, but none would ever stick. It wasn't worth the effort anyway. He knew there wasn't good for Jesus. He knew there wasn't, okay, let me just pause here. He knew he wasn't good for anything without her. Wasn't someone anyone want to know? He was just a traveler now, a ghost like her. The desert was dry and sweat was beading on his chest and brow. He beat the drops away. They came right back, teasing him like some wicked dream. With the sun bright in the distance, he squinted at the road ahead and marveled at the steam coming up from the pavement. Heat lines danced before his eyes and the white lines blurred. His vision was glossy. His eyes were stinging. Reaching into the back seat, Jake dug into the duffel bag and fished around for a clean shirt. He needed something to wipe the day away, to clear his head once more before the mirage on the side of the road took over. Fumbling his fingers, chanced upon the canister and Jake recoiled. He never pulled it out. He never looked at it, lest it disappear forever. His heart was racing, head pounding from the heat. He reached again and the film can slipped into his palm. His fingers closed around it and Jake brought it out for the first time, holding it tight and pressing his fist to his chest. Maggie was inside. He knew. Maggie's gorgeous smile, her big front teeth and ears that stuck out just a bit too much on the tops. Her freckles, her spirit, her love. He clutched the can and chewed his lip, biting back the tears, fighting the sweat and pain. 2 towns later, he found a place to develop the film, and he sat outside a weather-worn bench, counting down the hour in his mind. The street was like 100 he'd seen. People milling about under the mid-morning sky, small storefronts crowded together, their colorful awnings shading the sidewalk. It seemed nice, yet like every other place, empty without her. When time was up, Jake went back inside, ducking beneath the bells that jingled into the door. He thanked the clerk and held the envelope tight in his hand. It sat on the passenger seat as he drove away, unopened, the photos unseen. It leaned up against the ketchup bottle as Jake ate his burger, the picture still a mystery. Jake stared at the packet as he sipped his coffee, dragging up the will to see the images freed. He'd been running from them for so long, from the ache of whatever was inside. He was terrified now to open it, afraid he would break down when he saw her face. He would scream at the world around him whenever the ghost returned, crisp and beautiful and solid in his hands. He'd been running way too long. He was tired. Jake took a breath and opened the envelope, tipping it over to let the photograph spill out onto the tabletop. When he looked down, his eyes blurred behind thick tears. Every photo was of him. Every snapshot was a random moment he shared with Maggie. But from all of her point of view, all an angle of him. His smile, his crooked nose, his shaggy blonde hair, his hands, his hips. It was all him. For so long, he'd been holding on to her, and all along, she'd been holding on to him. What a nice story. I think I'm gonna do these a lot more. They probably won't get the views, but what's the point of that? Do what you love. Both of those were really, really great stories, and I hope you guys did enjoy those, even though this was just a test for myself. I hope that you guys really enjoyed those stories. They were really fun to read, I would do another one, but I don't want this video to run too long. And also my phone is about to die. It's literally like on 3%. So yeah. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys leave a like and slap that subscribe button. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.